It's December, and whether you're popping out for holiday shopping or spinning under the Zilker tree, comfy pants are a must. Enter Doers. They're so versatile, I can wear them to a festive dinner party or to walk my dogs. So go now to shopdoer.com/ccAustin to get 15% off of your first order. That's shopdoer.com/ccAustin for 15% off. shopdoer.com/ccAustin. Today on CityCast Austin, this week marked the deadline for candidates to sign up for the March 2026 primaries, which I know that sounds so far away, but both Democrats and Republicans already have their eyes on one race, the contest for the U.S. Senate. Plus, for the first time ever, Texas Democrats say they're running candidates for each and every race. So I'm here with two reporters to get up to speed on who's in and who's out. It's Thursday, December 11th. I'm Eva Ruth Moravec, in for Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Blaise Gainey, the Texas Capitol reporter for KUT News. What's up, Blaise?
Hey, how's it going?
And we've also got Eleanor Klibanoff, the law and politics reporter for the Texas Tribune. Hey, Eleanor.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome. So as you both know, news outlets like ours rely on members for support, and we are in the final 48 hours of our year-end membership campaign here at CityCast Austin. And y'all, we really need your support if you are listening to us right now. We're going to get into a conversation about some state headlines, and we also know that national headlines can be overwhelming. We choose here to kind of zoom in and focus on Austin because we believe that change and unity and connection really happen at this local level. So we want you to be as informed as you can so you can be connected and really plug in. And when you become a CityCast Austin neighbor, you're literally sustaining this local conversation, the curious, passionate, human, real conversation about this city that we all call home. So now is the time to step in, y'all. If you've been meaning to join, these last couple of days really matter to us. And our membership is just $10 a month, $100 a year, and it keeps this show going. And one more little tout for our perks that we've got. We are giving our new members a very cute CityCast Austin beanie to keep that brain toasty and warm and show that you love journalism. And new members could also win one of two pairs of tickets for upcoming shows at the Paramount Theater. We're giving away a pair for the Rebecca Havemeyer and Stanley Roy show on December 21st, as well as Bob Schneider's great big spectacular New Year's Eve party on New Year's. So make sure you go to membership.citycast.fm to join, and hope to see you soon. All right, y'all, let's yap about some local politicians. It's been a hectic few months for the would-be politicians here in Texas. Is the ink dried on our congressional map? Could things still change before these March primaries? Y'all have both been plugging in on these topics quite a bit, so fill us in.
I mean, I think the March primary is set. The 2026 election is set. The Supreme Court basically has stepped in and said, for the 2026 election, Texas can use the map it drew during the 2025 special sessions. That doesn't mean that those maps will stay in effect forever. The Supreme Court will still have to hear, the bigger legal challenge to it. But considering how quickly the election is approaching, obviously we needed some clarity on how this was going to play out in the short term. And so we now know, as of 4 days before the filing deadline, where candidates are going to be running for office in 2026.
Yeah, the maps are set, like Eleanor said. But yeah, I think moving forward is the question whether or not, this goes back to court and, something else happens. But I think we just have to wait and see. But for now, the maps are set. Everybody knows what district they're going to run in. And we can really get down to the campaigning part and following, how that's going to go.
It must have been just such a crazy time for these candidates. And I kept seeing the caveat in stories about the Supreme Court decision, for now. And I'm just no, this is not over.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this does happen. Like in Alabama in 2023, the Supreme Court issued a stay, like did what they did here. They said, like, go ahead with your new maps, run some elections under them. They ran 2 whole elections under those maps before the Supreme Court came back and said they were discriminatory the whole time. Our bad.
Yeah.
So like this happens. It doesn't mean these maps are in place forever. And obviously 2030 is not that far away.
Yeah. And even though, I mean, the map is related to congressional districts, it dictates our congressional districts in Texas. Yet we also have in this upcoming 2026 midterm election, a lot of other races that are not related to these maps at all. So let's get into it. Tell me about some of the Texans who are running for U.S. Senate and their Austin connections.
So one of our senators is up for re-election, John Cornyn, who is facing a very tough primary from Attorney General Ken Paxton, as well as Houston Congressman Wesley Hunt. That's turning into a messy race on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, also a messy race now. Round Rock Representative James Tallarico running now against Jasmine Crockett from Dallas for the Senate seat.
Who also waited for the last minute. I mean, she made, I think her announcing her candidacy, everybody kind of knew it was going to happen, but it was still very dramatic and deliberate, I think, for her to make that big splash on the last day that she possibly could file.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, granted, she sort of had to wait, for those maps to be settled, even though some others had sort of like Briscoe Cain had sort of said, like, I'm running in this district, even when the maps were still up for grabs, which one would be used. So definitely interesting to wait. But I think also she knew, like, her entering the race, we saw the impact it had with Colin Allred leaving, former congressman. That was just, I think it was smart to wait, and then she can announce and sort of have even a bigger announcement because it's so last minute. And then for Allred, now he moves over to essentially trying to get like his old seat back. Even though districts have changed so much, he's essentially like just going to get his old seat back from before he attempted to run for Senate.
Yeah, I think, is it right that her kind of postponing her announcement or the timing of her message really kind of caused this scramble in the Democratic Party candidacy?
Yeah, certainly in North Texas, I think they are scrambling. I mean, like you said, Colin Allred now moving over to run in the 33rd, but someone was already running there. Julie Johnson was like, I've already declared my candidacy. She sort of succeeded Allred. She is not backing down. She's made it clear that she intends to run like a pretty strong campaign against him.
Wow.
And then, Mark Veazey dropping out to run for Tarrant County judge. I mean, it's all, I'll say we're having some drama in Central Texas, but nothing compared to North Texas.
Just a little bit lower key here. That's how we like it. And I think like James Tallarico, a lot of people around here know him. He was our representative in the House for a long time, and he's been getting this higher profile, like when the Democrats left the state to filibuster the map. It does seem, I wonder, like, what y'all think about their 2 different approaches to this race. Like, they're going to be facing off in this March primary. Jasmine Crockett's campaign video or announcement was all Donald Trump quotes, saying what a terrible person she is and what a terrible, representative, and all these negative comments about her. And then you have James Tallarico, like, speaking at a church this Sunday in Austin and saying, like, we love all of, we support Jasmine Crockett. Like, which approach do you think will speak more to Austin voters?
I think we'll have to wait and see, of course, but I think the Tallarico approach speaks more maybe to Austin voters, sort of reaching hands out and sort of, saying, hey, we can all get along. But I don't know if that necessarily, traditionally, that hasn't shown that that's the best move to go in politics overall. So it may work with Austin voters, but will it work across, in other areas? I'm not sure. We'll once again have to see.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, it's kind of like, what do Democrats want the future of their party to look like, right? Do you want fighters? Do you want, people who are running full speed at the president, as Jasmine Crockett, I think, intends to do? I mean, do you want people who are like, sort of those like more like statesman workhorse people who are going to try to be like, let's get back to normal. Let's try to get back to the pre-Trump normal. And, you know, I think how voters respond to each of those candidacies will say a lot about, you know, what voters want on this.
Mm-hmm. And then either, you know, the winner of that contest will then have to face John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, or Wesley Hunt. And that race also, it's kind of entertaining for some of us to watch John Cornyn and Ken Paxton go after each other. Very different approaches to the vote also.
Yeah, very similar, I think, in a lot of ways. I mean, I think everyone involved in this conversation would disagree that they are similar at all. These two races are similar. But like, I think in a lot of ways they are, right? Do people want calm, steady leadership? You know, John Cornyn, such a longtime member of the Senate, sort of that elder statesman role, someone willing to, you know, work across the aisle, make compromises, or do they want a fighter? Do they want Ken Paxton, who's, you know, certainly a fighter and really in that mold of Trump? And so far, at least, it seems it's tipping towards they kind of want a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just talked with a political scientist who said, like, Democrats also are totally fine with Paxton coming out because of all the baggage he brings along, and sort of, I guess they think he's the easier opponent. But I mean, Republicans also said the same thing about Jasmine Crockett, and the numbers just don't show that. So it's all, you know, you got to watch everything that comes out of either side right now, because it's all, you know, positioning themselves, of course.
Yes, read between the lines. And Ken Paxton won a lot of elections with a lot of allegations out there and, you know, charges, all kinds of stuff. So what's to say that he would be an easy target now? I mean, I think like John Cornyn might feel that way, like based on what the ads are coming out with. But I don't know, the record kind of says otherwise.
So many of us have the one person in our lives that feels impossible to shop for. And if you're like me, you have many people in your life like that. So let's talk about Aura Frames. They're digital frames with unlimited storage for photos and videos. Best part, you can share these images from any device and they will instantly appear on the frame wherever it is in the world. Plus, every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box, so they do all the work for you. For a limited time, save on this perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, which were named the #1 by Wirecutter. Use promo code CityCast at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. The idea of learning a new language can be scary. I felt overwhelmed by that. I bet you have too. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and studies show that up to 90% of people trying to learn a new language give up. 90%. Fortunately, Babbel's built so that it's really easy to get started and really easy to stick with it. They understand that people learn differently. So maybe you can dive into a podcast on Babbel when you don't feel like a quick lesson, or you can speak out loud to get practice in, or you can explore courses based on specific topics and even create your own customized review lists, all within the Babbel app. Babbel has made learning a language all about small steps with real wins and progress you can actually track and feel. Bite-sized lessons that fit easily into your daily routine and are also easy to remember. Just 10 minutes a day is enough to start seeing real results. I've been learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's helped when I've traveled in Mexico, and it helps me eavesdrop on my son and my girlfriend when they speak Spanish to try to fool me. No más, mi corazón. However you learn best, by listening, speaking, reading, or writing, Babbel adapts to your style and keeps you motivated with personalized learning plans, real-time feedback, and progress tracking. And right now, here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hey y'all, it's Nikki. I love Austin, and I never feel more connected to it than when I am going to one of our quintessential Austin festivals like Honk TX or Eeyore's Birthday. That feeling of deep connection with the city is why we created the CityCast Austin Neighbors program. Yes, CityCast Austin Neighbors is a way to support this podcast and keep it going, but it's also a way of getting more out of this city that you love. When you're a CityCast Austin neighbor, you get an early look at events coming up around town. You get to shout out local nonprofits or businesses you love on the pod, and you get to join us for members-only experiences around the city, like supporting Austin musicians with us at a Ham Day showcase. It's a deeper way of living in Austin and a way of making local your top priority. And you get a CityCast Austin beanie. So join CityCast Austin Neighbors by going to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm.
Back to this map situation. I mean, Austin was ground zero for the map being created that kind of, President Donald Trump asked Texas Republicans for 5 new districts. Then it sort of set off this massive, long process that is now at a pausing point, at least for now. And here in Austin, like we've talked about a little bit, Lloyd Doggett is essentially drawn out of his seat. And that leaves Greg Casar, who is familiar to Austinites, having served on the city council here. And I'm curious if either of you have any thoughts on if this is the end of Lloyd Doggett or what he'll do next, and also if any, how else these Republican districts are going to affect Austin's representation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little painful to see. I mean, Lloyd Doggett, obviously, I think did what by many Democratic strategists account was the right thing, right? He stepped down for Greg Casar. He said after sort of initially saying, I am going to run, he came back and said it's time for the next generation. He did this really fall on his sword thing. Then when the judge sort of said the maps are discriminatory, we're going to go back to the 2021 maps, he made this big return. He said rumors of my political death have been exaggerated. And you could tell he still, and understandably, right, he still wanted to be, he was yes, I get another bite of the apple. And then of course the Supreme Court came in and said no. And now he sort of, his rumors of his political death are, exactly right. I think certainly he remains a very prominent figure in Austin and will be he's not going to drive off into the sunset, but I don't necessarily see him, finding a second life in that DC to Austin pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, him leaving and having more Republican representation, at least in the state house and in Congress, it will change a lot. I think more so it'll just mean that the Democrats that are in the area will have to fight, harder. But I think they probably said they were already fighting, hard. So I don't think really much will change. I think we'll still see the same sort of bills targeting the area. And we'll still see the same people, fighting against them, even if they're in or out of office. I think, Congressman Lloyd Doggett could still use his, connections to make the same pushes outside of the area. And I'm pretty sure, Greg Casar or somebody may lean on him as how to navigate the water. So he won't have a seat somewhere, but he will, be influential, of course.
Be an advisor, a quiet advisor or something behind the scenes.
Exactly, yeah.
That would make sense because I have heard people say it's great that we have this new generation, and can keep the movement going, but also we're, Democrats in Austin are losing a lot of Lloyd Doggett's institutional knowledge about how things are done. And in America, that might be kind of a nice feeling, to have some consistency in government and representation. I could see that also being a little bit more comfortable for people to know what they're going to get, as opposed to somebody like Greg Casar, who is a little bit more progressive and he's still kind of figuring out his lane.
Well, and I think if it was a one-off trade of in this one seat, we're going to trade a little bit of experience for a little bit of, new energy, it'd be different. But it's and even put party aside, across Texas's congressional delegation, we're seeing a huge exodus of more experienced lawmakers. And so, across the whole body, we're going to end up at the end of this cycle. And this has been going on for a long time. It's not just because of redistricting, but redistricting sort of accelerated it. We're going to see a less experienced newcomer class of Congress people, which does have huge impacts. I mean, a lot of what Congress does, it doesn't seem like it from the outside, but at least some of what they do is like just bipartisan getting stuff for Texas, getting money to come back to Texas, getting projects to come to Texas. And like that takes seniority. Like it's a lot of that stuff that doesn't get headlines is pretty like regimented. Like, how do you get that authority? And you get it by being in Congress for a long time.
And most of that exodus, I mean, a lot of it, at least aside from Lloyd Doggett, is Republicans, right?
Yeah, certainly. We're seeing a lot of Republicans leave. And that, I think, is not on quite as good terms as Doggett and Kassar. You know, I don't know that those people are necessarily trying to stick around and be senior advisors. Michael McCaul comes to mind as someone who I think is pretty, frustrated with the turn the party has taken and is like,
get me the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to the statewide side of things. One thing that I think some Austinites were surprised by is kind of close to the last minute, we saw Texas Senator Sarah Eckhardt, who represents Austin, throw her name in the ring to be the Democratic nominee for Texas Controller. Do either of you have any thoughts on why she did that?
I mean, I think it's a surprisingly important office. It's one of those offices that like nobody knows what it does, but they should because it's hugely important. And I think it's especially important right now because that office will be responsible for administering the school vouchers program.
Right.
And so certainly Republicans are putting a lot of attention on that. There's actually like a very contentious primary among some Republican leaders and for that race. And so I think she's reflecting sort of a, awareness that people should like be paying attention to this office. They also, the Texas Democratic Party put out a press release yesterday. Like they have a candidate filed in every single seat. And so it's part of this also is just saying like, we're not leaving any stone unturned this election. Like we might get beat. They probably will in a lot of these seats, but like we're going to put up a candidate in all of these.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Like, well, one, I thought it was interesting from the standpoint, like, wow, never have done this before.
I know. I was like, what have we been doing?
What a novel idea.
They said neither party had ever done this. I was like,
yeah. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe, what does that say about the, bigger scheme of things of like what political state we're in where they see that these seats are maybe up for grabs and that maybe there's a turn, maybe all this like Texas isn't really as red is true and they're giving it a try to see. I mean, I think I have also heard complaints from, whether it be Republicans or Democrats. They're like, wow, there's no primary in my area because there's nobody running in my party. And so I think, that also will make people just excited to see that they can actually go vote for somebody in different areas. But that was really interesting to see, like, wow, never even attempted this before.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Texas Comptroller, like you said, is a really important position. It handles, the money of the state, which is a lot. And then not only, when it comes to the vouchers, but you're talking about all sorts of procurements when we have emergencies in the state and just that whole process. Now, I think also it'd be sort of odd. I think I wonder if the state has ever had a comptroller that's not the same party as the governor, because it just seems like I could see where like that position could become like a problem if the two don't see eye to eye.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Like it shouldn't matter. You're just setting the budget and all that, but it does.
Right. Right. Like on one hand, what's really political about a lot of that? But then also when you throw in school vouchers, I mean, we're kind of testing out this program now.
Property tax. Yeah.
And property tax, all the cuts and so it I don't think it would work, Blaze, if they aren't in the same party, right? Like,
I think we've never seen it. Oh, I don't believe I've seen it before. I don't think I've ever paid attention to it this closely necessarily. But also, I wonder if like, say, Senator Sarah Eckhardt or any Democrat got in that position, if they would just be like, well, I'm just a finance person and I'm just going to do, what I'm told, or if they're going to be like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
try to pull strings and do things in different ways. I mean, we see that now with people taking certain roles and sort of just doing whatever they want to do with them until somebody says, no, you actually don't have that power.
Right. Right. And I think also speaks to the divisiveness of everything, that there is a Democrat running in every race. It's like, even if there was a time when that wasn't necessary, right? Maybe the Democrats in a certain race were in support of the Republican candidate because they thought that would be the best person for the job. That's no longer the mentality.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just gonna say, the idea of what would it be like to have one statewide office run by someone of a different party? That's very common in other states. Texas has just was all blue for a long time and then all red. It is more common, I think. I mean, before this, I worked in Kentucky where it was a state in transition. They had a Republican governor and a Democratic attorney general, and then those positions switched. I would argue good governance sort of demands people being of different parties and finding ways to compromise. I realize we are so far past that in a lot of things, but I do think it's important.
No, I mean, I agree, but also I've only reported in Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. So I've only known it to be all red down the line when it comes to, top leadership. And so it was just interesting to see how would that work? And I think also things are just seem more politicized now. And so and definitely a politician going for that position makes me think that they're going to be still sort of that same character, but maybe not.
Yeah. Okay. And then moving up from the all-important role of controller, we also have a spicy AG race coming up this next year. Tell us about that one.
Definitely some Austin personalities in there. U.S. Representative Chip Roy, who represents part of Austin, one of our, to use your term, spicier representatives in Congress, stepping down to run for Attorney General. He's sort of the front runner, but Aaron Reitz, who used to work under Paxton at the Attorney General's office, most recently was at the Trump Department of Justice, is also running, another Austinite. And then State Senator Joan Huffman and State Senator Mays Middleton of Houston and Galveston, respectively. So I think Ken Paxton has set a very high bar for sort of the politicization and excitement around that office. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting race. And then on the Democratic side, no Austinites in the race, but State Senator Nathan Johnson from Dallas, former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski, and Dallas Attorney Tony Box running. So it sort of doesn't surprise me that I think the Attorney General, which is a hugely important role, has in many ways has the most viable candidates sort of on both sides of the aisle running for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that out of all the positions there are to run for, that one you kind of have to have a certain amount of credentials. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see which direction the state goes in because, Ken Paxton made that position, I think, really different and really made it where the Attorney General was popular and people knew his name. That's not normal. And so I think, like you said, it's a position now that a lot of people are applying for. It'll be interesting to see whether or not whoever gets the position sort of still keeps that same sort of energy that Paxton brought to it or just, goes back and sort of just, like we talked about the controller job, just sort of does the job and, keeps pretty quiet.
Yeah, it's been a very public role these past couple of years, especially. We all watched his impeachment trial happen. And while Eleanor, you mentioned it's not really a local necessarily race. We don't have a lot of local candidates, but it still will have a huge impact on Austin. And whatever shenanigans they get into, we get to watch happen right here. So in our seat of the government. Mm-hmm. And then one last race that I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on is just the governor. We have Governor Greg Abbott. He's our incumbent. He's running for a fourth term, and he has more money than anybody has ever had in a political race, it seems like. Is this even exciting? I mean, with Democrats saying they're going to run someone for every race, is that just kind of a waste of money in this case?
I mean, Abbott has enough money to win this primary twice, which is why he doesn't need to. And I think as interesting as what he is going to do with that money, which is, since he doesn't need it for a primary, he's going to go use it to, he said, turn Harris County red. He's going to use it to turn the Valley red. So we're going to see ripple effects of him not needing to run a primary. On the Democratic side, I mean, I think Austin Representative Gina Hinojosa, former Austin ISD trustee, would say like she's running a very serious campaign, really trying to take on businessman Andrew White, the son of our former governor, and then Bobby Cole, as well as a couple of other, less name recognition candidates. I think they intend to put on like a pretty robust campaign, to your point. I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but I would say I think there are probably, if the Texas Democratic Party is looking at the landscape and they filled every single seat, is that the race where you're going to try to go toe-to-toe with Abbott money-wise? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart to put a candidate in that race. Is it winnable? I mean, I think, yes, it is in like in some wild scenario, but like I said, you have to put there just to see the numbers and the data that you can get from having a candidate there. See how much money you can spend and how close you can come, and think whether or not, more money would have made a difference the next time around or a different candidate. I think it's smart to put people in every seat just to see what the numbers are, because you can do as much polling as you want, but getting that real actual election data after this election will be what's most important for Democrats, I think, in that move of putting people in every spot. And is it a waste of money? No, because of the information I just talked about.
It's more of like a fact-finding operation to see how things are changing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be disingenuous. They are seriously running a serious campaign, and they really do want to win. And I think a lot of people that will vote for them really want them to win. The chances may not be great, but I think ultimately the outcome is we still sort of have a silver lining of we just got all this information, whether we win or not.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering which of these races the national parties are the most focused on and or are causing them the most strife. Like, I feel like the Tallarico Jasmine Crockett fight is really splitting the national party, or has the potential to. Are there similar splits that y'all are seeing on the Republican side of things?
I think that same race, that Senate race, I think the national Republicans are pissed off that they have to spend money on a primary in Texas. It's like, it's going to be a Republican. Put up someone. And I think that frustration, though, is equal parts. Half of them are frustrated with Cornyn for not dropping out, and half of them are frustrated with Paxton for getting in the first place. So if they could agree on who they're frustrated with, perhaps we would have a resolution. But instead, I think there's a lot of that annoyance. And I think it's playing up pretty similarly between Crockett and Tallarico. Again, no one can agree on who it should be, but they agree that the candidate they like less should do the gentleman's thing and drop out.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of agree the same way that I thought it was interesting. I mean, I think one could easily say, hey, like Paxton, you already had the attorney general's spot, and, you all could have just continued riding this out, for a while. But yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't get a certain position in the past and thought, hey, I can move up and be in Congress. And, the numbers show that this was smart for him to enter the race. And I think for Crockett, it's the same. And they sort of both are in that same realm, I guess you can say, of people who aren't quiet and necessarily like reaching out across the aisle in the same ways that Cornyn and Tallarico are talked about doing so.
Right.
I think that's more so what we're seeing is this different, more boisterous part of the party, of both parties, sort of saying, hey, like, instead of being like the activist voice, maybe we can, really take the leadership role, and like maybe this is how we should lead the party.
We'll see which mindset prevails. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. Is there anything else that we should be watching as we get ready for these primaries, aside from both of your respective websites?
Yeah, TexasTribune.org. If you like podcasts, we also do a lot of our news in podcast form, so check us out.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course, check me out at KET.org and all over NPR stations.
Awesome. Well, thank you both again. And yeah, thanks for the work that y'all do in keeping our voters informed on these very sometimes mundane but very important races.
Likewise.
No, thanks for having us.
All right, y'all. You know, we are getting close to the end of our membership drive. And I just want to say one more time, if you appreciate the insight and the information that you get here from CityCast Austin, show us your support right now by becoming a member for just $10 a month at membership.citycast.fm. You're going to want one of these badass CityCast Austin beanies, I promise. Not to mention the chance to win a pair of tickets to the Paramount's upcoming shows. And if you're already a member, thank you. We are so, so grateful for your support. Join your friends today and become a CityCast Austin member at membership.citycast.fm. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Blaze and Eleanor's work in our show notes. And if you enjoy the show, please tell your friends, leave us a review, rate the show, and make sure you're subscribed to our amazing Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.